Hello and good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. We find everybody happy and healthy today. Just wanted to give a minute or so, let a few other attendees join, but we'll tell you what, I will share my video in the meantime, just so that people can see who they are talking to. But there we go. Well, welcome to the Digital Tools for a More Sustainable Construction webinar. I'm very, very happy and honored to be here this morning or this afternoon. Like I said, we'll just give it a few more minutes. I know we have some attendees still coming in. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. We do have a chat functionality within GoToWebinar, so if I can get a raise of hands or a yes or a no from somebody, that would be great, just to let me know that it seems like, yep, people can hear me. All right. Good. All right, well, I guess in the essence of time, I will start. So again, welcome everybody to today's webinar. My name is James Chambers. I am the UKI Regional Manager for Bluebeam Software. I've been with Bluebeam for over a decade now, and came to Bluebeam by way of being a customer. I have a background in mechanical engineering and IT, and have worked both in the mechanical and the civil fields for the past sort of 25 years. But I now find myself in a great place being on a vendor and a solution provider side of the table, and able to really help and impact building solutions to bring them to an industry I love. So why are we here today? Let me advance that, give you a little bit of a background. Maybe actually a couple of housekeeping things ahead of time. Everybody is muted on entry to the webinar, but I am going to turn off my camera for now. But please, again, feel free to use the chat functionality in the chat window within the GoToWebinar panel. You'll see a chat window. You've got the choice to chat to the entire audience or send a chat directly to myself. But feel free to either chat questions along the way. If they're, we'll try to address them as they come up, especially if they're topical or pertinent to the discussion. If not, we can always use them as questions at the end of the session as well. But feel free to use that. So again, why are we here? Hopefully this is advancing my screen. Oops. Yeah, a little history about Bluebeam. Hopefully a majority of you are aware of what Bluebeam is and what we do, but for those that aren't, we are a software solution. We're part of the tech solution industry, and really our whole ethos is about enabling efficiency, standardization, and collaboration to the AEC industry. But it's here today, I think we're specifically going to be talking about the construction sector. Our software is really used by millions of folks within the AEC industry to really transform projects, boost efficiency, get more done in less time, and really bring the right information to the right people at the right time. A brief history: we were founded around 2002 as a spin-off from the JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, NASA joint venture. We were working on the Mars Lunar Rover project, and we started off as a push-button integration to really create very high-quality, vector-based, data-driven PDFs out of CAD and modeling authoring software to really enable those PDFs to do more. In 2005, we started to introduce markup tools. So we brought into play our first ever markup editing software really for the construction industry by leveraging the open source format of PDF, again, enabling project participants to work smarter with Revu. Really keep everybody on the same page, especially for those complex or involved workflows. In 2014, we were honored to join the Nemechek family, allowing us to connect with even more AEC professionals and consumers worldwide, along with the other suite of solutions that the Nemechek family brought with them. So today we have some pretty outstanding stats actually in terms of the impact we've had on this industry. And again, this is an industry, myself and like a lot of people that actually work within Bluebeam themselves, we come from the industry. We're either architects, engineers, construction professionals, owner reps, whatever it might be. So it truly is a pleasure and a passion to be able to support tools or build tools to support the industry that we are very much passionate about. We have nearly 2 million users worldwide currently. And for those that have used Studio, our real-time cloud-based collaborative solution, a quite staggering number is that we've had 32 billion transactions go through Studio since the time it was conceived back in version 8.5. We are pretty much the top used tool for 99% of all the US contractors. And we've seen reports from that audience of 88%, nearly 90% improved work quality and efficiency, which again is kind of staggering. We really do partner with the community, so we are very much involved in advocacy for the industry and connecting the user communities. So we have over 800 active users in user groups right now through various different vehicles and mediums. And we have 15 localized versions of our flagship desktop product, Revu. Again, I mentioned we joined Nemechek in 2014 from a very strategic perspective. Nemechek is solely focused on the AEC audience. They have a suite of over 16 products and tools within their portfolio, some of which you probably heard of, some of which you probably know, things like Navarus or Graphisoft Celebri for certain, Derofus Allplan. But really, it's an amazing brand that sort of focuses on the AEC sector, serving 6 million plus users in globally all over the world in 140 plus companies. And I think something that has made us very proud is in this year and next year, Nemechek the Nemechek Group was nominated to participate in the 50 Sustainable and Climate Leader campaign for the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, that both for 2020 and 2021. So again, it's incredibly rewarding to see that the tools and the solutions that are being produced by or within the Nemechek umbrella are really having great impacts on just this very subject matter of sustainability and green thinking. So again, we truly are a partner with the industry. I think that is something that is evident in the advocacy and the industry affiliations we have around the world, the adoption of great ambassadors and amazing customers such as yourself. And again, Bluebeam is actually part of the build division of Nemechek, and our own CEO, John Elliott, who is the CEO of Bluebeam, is actually chairs the build division of Nemechek. So again, not only do we have a very strong foundational root in construction and the AEC industry within Bluebeam itself as a product, within the Nemechek brand, we have an incredibly powerful voice, really targeting the audience of the build and construction division, servicing that community. So again, huge partnerships and affiliations. Again, a couple of great stacks about Bluebeam. Again, working and getting back from the industry here. That 88% improved work quality is cited by a customer service survey of nearly 6,000 customers. Again, it's tremendously rewarding, and a lot of us that now work at Bluebeam who have come from the industry kind of knew it, but it's great to hear that. It's great to hear customers actually give that recognition. 71% of Revu users in one company recovered on average an hour a day. And again, if we think of the time we spent managing projects, trying to coordinate the time between job sites and office work and that work-life balance, getting yourself an hour back in efficiency gains is pretty amazing. Hopefully they don't make you work an extra hour doing other things, but again, I think a great stat of hearing how people are able to get home an hour early, or God forbid, actually take an hour's lunch and refocus mind and body, etc. So great stats to hear back from customers. 40% faster building sign-offs and complete inspections with Mortensen Construction, quite a prominent US construction firm. And again, talking to the bureaucracy, talking to the time savings and efficiencies of the bureaucratic process of sign-off, the litigation, things like that. Again, 60% increase in production and efficiency from Hilson Moran, one of our own local UK stars here, that actually converted and went solely Bluebeam, saw a 60% increase in productivity and efficiency. And again, on average, about 82% of our customers say they save time using Revu. So again, just great gratification to know we're doing something in the right way. So we are actually now a growing global company. We have presence geographically, 10 offices across 3 continents, not just US based. We obviously, most prominently to this conversation, we have an office near and dear to my heart in London, as well as areas in the rest of Europe. And we're very proud to announce an entity that opened up in Australia to kind of take care of the APAC market, and also our growing multinational and global customers. So let's talk a little bit about sustainability and more of how we can embrace digitalization for the construction sector. Simple questions, but why does sustainability matter? And I think in putting this together and doing some research on this, it was quite alarming, some of the stats that we have uncovered and found. Construction is one of the least sustainable industries in the world, and attributes to about 40% of the UK's total carbon footprint. So by hopefully giving some pointers here and some of the main, there's about 4 to 6 key and critical factors that we can point out where areas of efficiency. The idea of sustainability is probably something that is prevalent on a lot of people's minds, but it seems to have a bit of a stigma of it's going to cost a lot of money, it's going to be a lot of upfront cost, implementation is going to be tough. It really should only be applicable to big mega projects and key and strategic large customers. But really, the essence and idea of sustainability or sustainable construction or digitalization of construction efficiencies is really something that can be found in grassroots efforts. And again, hopefully over the next 20 or 30 minutes, we can talk to you about 4 to 6 of the key factors in which this really can have an impact and be applicable to anybody, any size of audience, any size of company, any size of project demographic. Really, there is no limit to how this can be applied, from single person shops to supply chain vendors, all the way up to the large multinational conglomerates that are building throughout the world. But by building sustainably, the impacts are massive. We can easily drive down energy consumption and save money in the process. So 2 huge wins that can be the off product of what can be, hopefully you'll see some pretty grassroots initiatives. So again, what is sustainability, and why do we really need it? We're a fast growing population, and the increased demand for comfort, for spending more time inside, really, especially in this current climate and pandemic, the idea and notion of sustainability, of green living, is a lot more prevalent than it ever was. And connecting people, I think, is a huge portion of that. So this is all great news for our industry. But if we want to keep our construction costs down, we need to look at ways in which we can implement sustainable building. So there are a number of problems, and again, we're going to kind of highlight 3 or 4 of those over the next short while. But one major problem is definitely paper, and our reliance on paper-based solution costs us millions. Printing, production, transportation, all the important document documentation is truly very expensive and is harming the environment. On average, again, some alarming stats here, but on average, an average project and customer companies are seeing about $27,000, about 25 or so thousand pounds on printing costs alone, and as little as 5,000 sheets of paper. And when you consider again the cost of not only the tangible costs of ink and printing costs, but these numbers are astronomical for small businesses. The reliance on printed sets, on again the litigious and legal needs of having paper copies in multiple locations, on-site, off-site, archival, etc., is hopefully something that is becoming a way of the past and a way of thinking forward in terms of how can we start to digitalize some of those things. And again, I think an interesting fact there is it's not just the initial cost and materials of the physical printing. It is typically a lot of the other tertiary costs as well when we think about couriering services and transportation, etc. Huge amounts of costs that are included in that. It's a wasted resource, and it's estimated that 50% of all of that printed material and those plan sets and those specifications and details are never actually even looked at, which again is kind of staggering. So I think companies and this industry is definitely embracing the idea of digitalization. I think again, this pandemic has only gone to accelerate the need for by democratizing data and making it efficient and making it available to everyone, whether you are physically on site or whether you again are working from a remote office, a home office, or if you are back in an office environment. And again, that need to not have a physical paper trail to connect a supply chain to a deliverable or onto a bringing the customer or the end user into the equation. All these things can be done digitally now. So again, we're going to talk about 3 ways that we've seen on some of the extensive research we've done the biggest impact. So again, these are 3 ways that can be leveraged at pretty nominal uptake. These can have a very low barrier to entry in terms of ways that we can look at doing things. So the market is crying out for this. I'm sure this isn't a new thing. I'm sure everybody's heard from their customers and their market segments and their suppliers and vendors that the word green and the idea of sustainability and green building is something that is definitely a requirement now. It costs less in the long term because it saves a huge amount of energy and reduces the carbon footprint. Again, I think there's some great stats here. On average, new green buildings save 8% in operating costs in their first year alone. So again, just initial cost savings on operation and ownership of having a building that is entirely more efficient is huge. But then I think from an asset management or an owner perspective, the idea that 7% thereafter and an increased asset value of roughly 6 to 7% is a huge ROI, especially on what is typically a very important or very expensive commodity. These buildings are now in high demand. People are realizing the fact that there is significant ROI in sustainable building, and the demand is only set to grow in 2021 plus, again, especially in the life and the current climate we sit in. In the United States, green buildings consume 25% less energy and 11% less water usage than other buildings. Again, these are huge, huge stats when you think of the cost of an asset. And that building could be anything. We could be talking about a residential property. We could be talking about a public or municipal building, such as a school, or we could be talking, again, commercial buildings and multi-use buildings. Again, on average, those green buildings save about 8% in the first year and 7% thereafter. And again, the increased value of that asset we're seeing is around 8 to 10%, which is a huge net gain. Again, the government is aware of this. There are huge incentives, tax breaks and subsidiaries and other incentives that the government is doing to encourage companies to choose a more green building option. So switch to digital. that sounds like a very simple statement. And again, I think this is a lot of things that we're seeing throughout the industry, and working again with a lot of customers in UK and Europe and throughout the world. There are a lot of people making the switch to digital. Again, some great stats or alarming stats is that the construction industry itself is the least digitalized sector in the world. And it stunts, this whole idea stunts innovation ideas, it stunts technology growth and adoption, and things that could make us and make this industry a lot more efficient. We are actually globally, construction is the third least digitized sector in Australia. However, 63% of the Australian buildings are green, which actually makes them the global leader in sustainable construction currently, which is ironic that it's the third last or third worst sustainable or digitized sector in Australia. It's second in the US, and unfortunately, it's last in Europe. In fact, when that stat was put together, we've actually discovered that there is one segment that is actually least or less digitized than the construction segment in the UK. And that, believe it or not, is agriculture. And for some reason, hunting is gathered or put together within the agricultural umbrella of an industry. So hunting and agriculture has got us beat. They are the least digitized market segment in the world. However, we're alarmingly beaten by the government sectors, which some would argue is probably not a good stat to come by. There are, again, this isn't just a Bluebeam thing. Everybody is looking at ways of producing new technologies to make life more efficient. We offer things, and we've seen advancements in things like smart building systems to monitor and reduce and keep track of overall buildings emissions, to actively track against that, and in some cases change the heating, the HVAC, the lighting, building ventilation and through flow, or capturing of solar energy to put back into the buildings, or capturing of gray water for reuse, etc. And this gives the future occupiers and owners more control over their energy consumption. So again, just the overall cost effectiveness and money saving abilities through things like building smart monitors. The pre-construction level as well, we've seen a huge amount of data focused design that is changing construction for the better. The concept and notion of sustainable thinking and green building is now very prevalent in the design stage. So it helps teams to plan ahead and spot for future problems and test against ideas through data modeling and through various sort of data-driven simulations before the project's even broken ground, before things have gone to concept. So again, this again is going to mean less waste, more efficient building process, a much more tangible and efficient product at the end of the project, just by bringing that data-focused design into the entire the pre-construction phase as well. So, oh, new technology. Sorry, I think I've got a step behind some of my slides here. So again, we're seeing things like overall consumption. We're seeing huge investments over the last sort of half a decade into solar powered energy, into water capsulating and reuse of water systems, permeable technologies, sustainable indoor technologies. Again, I think the huge boost that we've seen and been involved with and working with a huge amount of industry affiliations over the last sort of 2 to 5 years is things like prefabricated materials and offsite manufacturing, where we're seeing tremendous efficiency gains in not only the way that some of these complex materials or subcomponents of buildings are being manufactured in a very clean environment with no introduction of additional pollutants and a much more controllable environment for building those. But we're seeing, again, the longer term impacts that those materials or that efficiency gain in production and manufacturing is having through to the end project and onto the construction sites. Again, working with waste. Our industry, again, is a huge unfortunately has a huge byproduct of one of the major contributors for waste in this segment. The waste, or the more waste from a project, obviously the bigger hit on things like profit margins by either over ordering or poor waste or poor management and material management, on-time procurement, things like that are obviously a huge hit. Sustainable materials last longer, and without the proper waste management plan, and with proper waste management plan, sorry, you can reuse some of those materials, especially if you've got similar builds or similar projects. The idea of mining materials, not physically, but reusing materials on similar leftover projects is something that is starting to become very, very prevalent. And again, the ability to profit off that and reuse it with a great side effect of reducing the material use. Reductions in paper process and using digital practices throughout, the adoption of methods of collaboration to reduce the need to travel to site and to connect the job site, again, hugely prevalent in today's world. And advancements, again, in material technologies. We're seeing things like porous concretes, a concrete that actually absorbs pollutants from vehicles, and even by nature of its porous abilities can help with water mitigation and runoff by preventing flooding or pooling or puddling on roofs, etc. Skanska themselves have created a green concrete, which is a low carbon concrete that actually has a 50% reduction in carbon emissions, because they replaced parts of this cement volume with slag and reused and recycled materials. So again, some huge advancements that we're seeing where the industry is really kind of fighting back. And again, these aren't just the material suppliers. These are the contractors that are seeing the need for this and proactively working with the industry to help develop new material technologies to help shape tomorrow's future. A quick case study here that we saw working with a customer, Arpro. They are a sort of small to medium-sized HVAC and mechanical contracting firm that optimized their construction time by up to 40% and increasing the ability to complete construction projects on time and on budget. On average, they were saving $30,000 a year by reducing their printing costs and switching 100% with the use of digital dashboards for document management and accessibility of information. The Arpro dashboard is now actually part of their brand of professional reputation. So again, here is a method of using digitalization to produce something like a digital dashboard that becomes your client and project interface, and it's putting them far ahead of in some cases their local competition, or it's bringing them up to the same speed of competing with the likes of companies that might be several times their size, because they have now that flexibility of the way that they can approach the market given their new digital approach. So what is the future of this? Well, obviously, we know we can save millions by very simply reducing paper, by digitizing the processes and minimizing the amount of waste, by using sustainable materials. And initially, construction costs might be high. Again, there is a bit of an upfront investment in using a more green or sustainable mindset or philosophy, but the longer term ROIs for sustainable abilities are huge and obvious. 68% of the world's population is expected to live in cities by 2050, and that's not very far away. We're seeing huge demands for urban sprawl, where towns and density populations are the boundaries are getting bigger and a lot more blurred. This makes it even more important for project teams to consider the effects of their builds, both locally and globally. So again, with the right tools and the right technologies and implementing the right materials, we can make this a much more sustainable industry. Construction is in a really powerful position to change this. Again, I think we're at the forefront of this. We are literally in a very privileged position to be building the physical world we live in. And that is a world that is, again, going to be spiking with population, the requirements for domestic dwelling and business and economic buildings. So I think Bluebeam and the construction industry, sorry, is in a hugely powerful position to help change that. We're all moving towards data-driven decision-making in every facet of what we do right now. But again, that comes from democratizing the data by sharing and disseminating that across all of the project stakeholders. So again, by implementing some pretty simple and grassroots levels of digitizing your existing more analog processes, or by installing a hugely collaborative and interactive environment in which data sharing becomes very simple. These are just huge, massive steps you can make in the right direction of adding and aiding to that huge change in the position that we can do to help that. Oh, looks like I was talking ahead of the slides there. I apologize. All right. So again, just to go back, a couple of ways that we know we have impact and seen this in action for the last sort of 2 years plus, 2 to 5 years. Again, Hilson Moran, delivering every project now via studio sessions yielded about a 60% increase in production efficiency. And they actually did a side-by-side comparison against a paper-based project versus one done through a much more digital process. And that's where they got a 60% increase in efficiency. So they were using studio sessions, and it helped Hilson to project a 50% reduction in paper over the next 5 years, and that was recognized. And we're about 2.5, 3 years through that, and all stats right now are even ahead of schedule on that. In just 18 months, Revu is now a standard project software solution for Hilson. Again, Plumco cut the company's use of paper by 92%. Huge. Customer quotes were received 75% faster, and Plumco themselves were saving 80% time in the cost of quoting. So just quoting and bidding alone, just being able to digitize that process, send things electronically and digitally, maybe even bring the customer into a virtual or digital meeting through some kind of collaborative environment. Just the bureaucracy savings alone were huge there. They were actually even able to reduce their office space from 150 square meters down to 20 square meters, because basically they can work anywhere at this point. So they're not necessarily on having centralized headquarters or offices. They can be so much more self-sufficient with virtual working. Again, Turner Construction, quite a large GC firm. They've seen about 85,000 pages saved in a year, reducing their printing and reprographic costs by 50%. Reducing, again, this is where those ancillary costs come in, reducing the courier cost by 76%. And their total paper savings was around 73%, or $70,000 or so in savings. So again, in closing, just wanted to give another overview. We are really here, hopefully, to help show how we are embracing the digitalization and the collaborative element of the AEC needs for our industry tools, whether that is takeoff, measurement, design review, QA, QC. Really, we have a position to play throughout any part of the project lifecycle, pre-construction, pre-design, all the way through design and handover. So again, hopefully there's some elements there that can resonate where there might be areas of inefficiency that you're seeing in some of these areas of, again, document management, so managing all the projects from one file, easy access, and labeling and ensuring that everybody has access to the latest and most concurrent information and are building off the latest sign. And again, site logistics, being on site on a mobile device such as an iPad, and allowing an entire team to collaborate from anywhere in the world, or connecting the supply chain into that conversation ahead of time, all from a single place and a single solution should have some immediate impacts there too. So again, I don't know if anybody has posted anything in the chat window. I'll have to jump out of the screen to see that, but I just wanted to thank everybody for their time and attendance today. Hopefully some of those points were pretty helpful. There's a couple of things that I wanted to point out. A lot of the stats that you're seeing and the information you saw throughout this were actually in a sustainability report that we did working with the industry and various members as well of the Nemechek team and organization. So there is a web link here that I believe we will post into the chat channel. We'll also make it available up on our website as well. But yeah, go bluebeam.com sustainable report, and then again, just learn more about Bluebeam if you haven't through our solutions page. But again, the word and the idea and notion of sustainability and building green and having a better use of materials sounds like these massive and mammoth tasks that hopefully some of these things can show that it really can start at grassroots ideas. It really can start at taking things that right now are inefficient workflows and processes, whether that's the way you communicate and collaborate between different departments or disciplines, whether that's the way you gather site information and feed it back, whether it's how you sign off and approve on whatever it might be, materials delivery or constructability reports, whatever it might be. There are ways that can be 100% digitized and done in a fraction of the cost, and hopefully with the same increased level, in fact more levels of accountability now, knowing who did what, where, and why. So again, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Hopefully there's a few things that we can take away from this. Please do visit these resources and the links that are being posted, and welcome any comments and feedback if anybody has them. If not, do thank you for your time. I hope you and your families and loved ones are well, and we will see you for more of these as we move forward.